So a few days ago, I was watching this John Wick movie because it's John Wick, and who doesn't love John Wick? And I'm like watching him fight. I'm so like thoroughly and completely impressed with his fighting skills, right? Like completely. And I'm watching him fight, and I just had this thought of like, damn, I wish I could fight like that. Like that would be so cool, right? Oh my God, I wish I could fight. Just like he's amazing and he's fast and it's like all the things that I'm like, oh my God, like I wish I could fight like that. And then like weirdly enough, I had this immediate thought right after it, on the heels of it, that just kind of came out of nowhere. And I thought, yeah, but if I could fight like that, I'd never want to stop. And I started really thinking about that because honestly, like if I could fight like that, if I had those kinds of skills, I would literally, that's all I do. Y'all listen, that is all I would do. I would just fight everybody, just all the time, anywhere, anyone, just anytime. I would just be fighting, just like, hey, you want to fight? Hey, you want to fight? Ha! I'd be starting fights. I'd be finishing fights. I would be jumping into fights that had nothing to do with me. I would literally go looking for fights because I'm not good. Like, because I know that I'm not good. Like, if you're that good at fighting, like, fighting would become your life because that's what you know how to do best, right? Like, you're a fighter now. Like, I would be a fighter now. So that's all I would do. And it hit me really super hard. Like, holy shit. Fighting had become my entire life, just a different kind of fight. I think one of the hardest things that I've ever had to admit to myself is that I built basically like an entire identity around the fight, around the struggle. The fight was my entire life. Not consciously, maybe. Like, I don't think that it was, necessarily in my conscious mind, but also not like accidentally. It was intentional, careful, even brick by brick. I became the struggling single mom. I became the woman who had been abandoned, the special needs mom. That became a big part of my identity. I was the special needs mom. I'm the mom of a son with special needs. Look at me, the struggle, right? The woman who always had to carry more than anybody else, the victim. The woman who never got help, was always on her own. The woman who always had to fight, literally fight for every inch because the world wouldn't give her anything. World's not going to hand her anything. She's got to fight. Like that was the woman that I became. And the worst part is that somewhere along the way, I actually became proud of it. I became proud of being the struggling single mom. I became proud of being the woman that always had to fight, the strong woman, right? And it wasn't proud in like a survival way. It was proud in a nobody could possibly understand what I've survived kind of way. Proud in a way that like basically screamed righteous indignation at anybody ever. How dare you try to empathize with my struggle? Okay? You couldn't possibly understand. You'd never understand. And I started noticing this thing that I would do. It was this place where I didn't even want to be understood. Like I wanted to be unreachable. You couldn't possibly understand me. I'm a single mom. You don't get real struggle in motherhood. And if somebody said, "Oh, yeah, me too. I actually am a single mom." Oh, okay, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're a single mom, but I'm the single mom of a special needs kid. So you still don't get it. And if they go, "Oh, actually, weirdly enough, I am too. So I totally do get it." Well, then it was, "Okay, okay, okay, but my special needs kid, he has rage problems. He has destructive meltdowns. You can't possibly understand." And if somehow they understood that too, well, then it was like, "Oh, well, okay, yes, but I also experienced all this trauma as a kid." And on and on and on. It was like my nervous system needed to start climbing higher and higher up the ladder of suffering so that nobody could reach me. Because if somebody could understand me, then maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. And weirdly, that kind of felt like threatening in a way because alone had become part of my identity. Struggling single mom. It's in the title, single. It's the lone wolf, the strong woman. Well, how can I be strong if I have help? Right? I didn't just identify with struggle anymore. I had identified with separation. It was like I had this unconscious need to kind of stay the most hurt person in the room because the struggle had actually become it was like proof of concept, like my proof of worth, my proof of uniqueness, proof that I mattered. I had unconsciously made suffering my identity. The fact that I always had to fight was my proof. It was the only evidence that I needed that I mattered, that I was stronger than everybody else and I could prove it. It became evidence that I was different, that my pain somehow ran deeper than everybody else's. It was evidence that I was special. And God, how I wanted to be special. I became the quintessential victim. And, the thing about victim mentality or victim identity is that it becomes kind of self fulfilling. It becomes kind of that self fulfilling prophecy because no matter what somebody has gone through, you'll always find a reason that you went through it worse, that it was harder, more consuming for you than it was for them. It's like that annoying friend, we all have one, that has to like one up you and everything you say. Oh, you ran a 5K? Cute. I just ran a marathon. Oh, you got a $10,000 raise? It's so great. I actually got 20. Like, ew, right? And it was that way with me, but with suffering. Like, suffering has become this weird, unconscious competition because if suffering stops making you special, then like, who are you? And I'm definitely not shaming you if this is you, and I'm not shaming myself either. I'm not ashamed of the woman I was. I'm saying this because I finally understand why she existed. She was trying to survive, and she didn't know any other way. And she needed her suffering to mean something. Because if all that pain had no purpose, if all that pain didn't mean anything, if none of it made her special, then what the fuck was it all for? It's crazy to me how one single moment can shape so many years of a life. But that's how it goes, right? Especially when we're kids. Things happen to all of us. That's not the issue. The real story gets written because of what happens inside of us when the thing happens, right? That's trauma. It's the meaning that we give it. The story that we write about what happened, and we tell ourselves that story over and over. That's what follows us and shapes, who we become essentially, at least until we face it and we change it, right? When I was 9, my dad died. I've talked about this before. And obviously I was devastated, right? I was crying like any little kid would. Okay. My grandma, who was from a very different generation and had just lost her son, it was kind of a long story. She took us to the hospital. It was this whole thing. And on our way back, we're walking in. I don't actually remember, but I must have been crying hard, right? I must have been because I remember her letting my sister and brother go in the house and then stopping me and looking at me, the baby of the family, and telling me, suck it up, stop crying. Your family needs you to be strong now. And the point isn't what she said. This is what I need you to hear. The point isn't what she said. The point is what my little 9-year-old nervous system decided that it meant. In that moment, I didn't, I couldn't possibly see a woman grieving and trying to help in the only way she knows how. I could only take her words as truth. So little girl Corey decided right then and there that everybody else's pain is my responsibility. And from that day forward, not even kidding you, until I was like recent years old, I decided that my pain was less important, and I struggled to cope with anybody hurting around me, anybody feeling emotional anywhere around me. I really had a very, very hard time with it. It would absolutely destroy me to know that somebody was, like, in pain, especially animals. I don't know why that's where it targeted, but especially animals. It was like something in me would see an animal hurting. I would see their vulnerability, they're just small and scared and they don't quite understand what's happening, and somehow I saw, like, my own pain and vulnerability in them, and it was almost like I had somehow failed them personally because they were suffering. But at the exact same time, like, simultaneously, I had decided that my feelings didn't matter. My pain was inconvenient. My pain was too much. It was something to shove away, something to suck it up, right? It was that idea that my pain needed to be pushed away because everybody else's pain was more important. Everybody else's pain was my responsibility, and I needed to focus on that. And that led to years of hyper independence, okay? And I'm not talking about the healthy kind. I'm not talking about the healthy kind that says, I can support myself, I'm capable. No. That would have been okay. Nope. We're talking about the kind of independence that says nobody's allowed to help me. And if they try, God forbid, because I will get personally offended and respond with defensiveness because somewhere deep inside of me, accepting help felt weak. It was like that little girl Corey still holding that wound decided that accepting help was admitting failure. And that story stayed with me for a really long time. We're talking decades, y'all. A long time. I'd like to say it followed me, but the truth is, I carried it. I drugged that bitch around, drug it around behind me for years, refusing to let it go. I felt invisible in my own life, all because of a story that I had written that said I wasn't allowed to feel. A story that said everybody else's pain mattered more than mine. And every time that another struggle came along, there I was, the almighty martyr, ready and willing to carry the emotional burden of the entire fucking world on my shoulders. Like, don't worry, everybody, here comes Corey to bear your sorrows. And I don't say that to make fun of who I was. Honestly, I don't say that as like I'm talking shit. I really don't. Because like I said, that was the only story that I knew. That was all I knew. I couldn't have done any better because I didn't know how. I'd been living inside that identity for so long that I didn't even realize it was a program I was running. I didn't even realize that's the story I had written and wrapped around me. And that's the sneaky thing about victim identity. That kind of mentality, that victim mindset, it sneaks in and it kind of takes hold and eventually it just feels normal. If you live that way long enough, it stops feeling like a story. And if you don't uncover it, you never really realize that it's a story. It just feels like your truth, but it wasn't living. It was just surviving. Literally, it was just me surviving, just getting through one day and then another. And the moments of joy became so fleeting that I'd started to believe that like darkness was that's all there was. The pain, the hurt, the anger that I'd shoved down and buried deep, that's all there was. But I still can't feel it. Nope. So just cram it down a little bit farther. Nobody was coming to save me. And I wouldn't have let them if they tried. That's the truth. I had built a world where I was completely alone. And then somehow I had twisted it into meaning that the universe or God or whatever you want to call it hated me. And I was just some victim of all of it. And I think when you spend enough years kind of surviving that way, eventually survival kind of stops being something that you're experiencing and it just becomes who you are. You survive and you survive and you survive, and eventually your entire identity just becomes the survivor, the fighter, in my case, the fixer, right? Or the martyr, the one who carries everybody else. Oh, poor me. Always sent in to carry everybody else. The one who never gets rescued, the one who is exhausted but has to keep going anyway. And that identity did keep me alive. It did. It did keep me going. But eventually, survival identity, it becomes a cage. And I let all that unfelt pain, that unrealized hurt, turn me into a victim. And anytime somebody tried to challenge that identity, I raged. As I've talked about before, I used to be a severe addict. And back then, being a junkie felt like the only possible identity available to me. Like I knew, and I've said this before, I talk about this pretty openly. I knew back then. It's not like I wanted to be a junkie. Who wants to be, right? Like that's not an aspiration I think anybody has. I didn't want to be a junkie, but I had no idea who I would be if I wasn't. Like I had been that version of me for so long, like who else would I be without her? I couldn't picture anything beyond where I was in that moment. I couldn't even fathom the life I had now. Dear God, I could not have even drudged that up from the depths of my imagination. The reality of sobriety, of really living a life outside of that felt so foreign to me. And honestly, if we truly cannot imagine a different life than the one we're living, then the life we're living starts feeling like the only possible reality. I mean, it kind of is, right? If you can't even picture something else, it kind of is all there is. So no wonder I couldn't change. Like, no wonder it took me so many years of that push pull, trying to quit, starting again, trying to quit, relapsing and going back out there. Like, no wonder that was going on. That was the lather, rinse, repeat of my life for so long. I hated who I was. I hated who I had become. But I was so deep in it that I genuinely believed that there was nothing else for me, nothing else left for me. So eventually, I just stopped fighting it. Actually, no, fuck that. I didn't just stop fighting it. It wasn't passive. I embraced it. I embraced it. There was a point in time where I literally just embraced it. I said, okay, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go hard. And every time I, like jokingly said, I'm a junkie, I was just reinforcing the exact identity that I wanted freedom from desperately. Because our identity, it recreates our reality over and over again. It doesn't matter who you are. It matters who you believe you are. You can be intelligent and kind, loving, creative, a resilient human. But if you fundamentally believe that you are worthless, broken, unlovable, doomed, right? The universe is out to get me. If you believe that about yourself, then that's the version of you. That's the version of reality that you're going to keep reenacting. You're going to just keep recreating it over and over again. And nothing externally is going to change that. That's where we get it confused. We think that this is going to change this. It doesn't. It doesn't work like that. I hate those movies, you guys. I hate those movies that say those like stupid. I don't love stories anyway. I'm not really a big rom-com fan. I'm not a fan of it because it's all bullshit. It's all garbage. And there's all these movies that say, oh, he loved me enough for both of us. Or where it's like, she essentially hates herself, but then some dude comes along to show her how incredible she is. And then boom, all of a sudden she's full of self-confidence and love. She loves herself so much and life is perfect. That's not how it works. And I hate those movies because they perpetuate this idea that something outside of me is going to fix the broken inside of me. It doesn't work like that. I hate that. And frankly, in those scenarios, what's actually happening is she's tying her self-worth to this dude that came along. And what if he leaves? What if they have a fight? What if, God forbid, something happens to him? Or, Jesus, like, what if he's just having a rough day and he doesn't have the capacity emotionally to shower her with all the reinforcing, validating comments and compliments that he usually does? What then? She's a mess. She just is a wreck for that day because her entire world is now wrapped up in her partner's idea of her. So if he falters in any way, if he fails to lift her up in any way, now she just falls apart. And she will live and die by his behavior. Her confidence will live and die by his validation. What the fuck is that? But that's the part of the story they never tell in those stupid movies. I hate those movies. Like, talk about pressure, first of all. for him. Like, that's a lot to put on a person, okay? And also, like, talk about being completely powerless in your own story. Ew. True self-love, it cannot come from anything outside of you. Loving yourself is not an external job. It's not. I love that old Cat Williams stand-up. It's hysterical, and I'm probably not gonna say it right, but oh my God, it makes me laugh every time. Where he's talking about, how are you gonna say I ruined your self-esteem? That's your job. It's the steam of your motherfucking self, bitch. Oh my God, it's hilarious and it makes me laugh. It literally makes me laugh every time because it's exactly true. It's the steam of your motherfucking self, bitch. It's for you to handle. It's for you to work on. It's for you to build up. The point is, no amount of compliments or adoration or, validation from other people can override an identity that you're loyal to internally. So you believe you're worthless. It doesn't matter how many hundreds of people online tell you, oh my God, you're so pretty. Oh my God, that's such a good picture. Oh my God, you look gorge, babe. It doesn't matter. If you believe you're ugly, if you believe you're worthless, if you believe you're not enough, they can tell you all damn day. And you can have thousands of likes on your recent post, and it's not gonna fix the way that you feel about you. Maybe temporarily you'll feel pretty good, right? We all know that. Oh, hey, okay. And then it goes away because it's not real. It's all surface. If you believe you're a victim, you will unconsciously keep creating evidence that you are a victim. You'll keep your subconscious, and we talked about this in a previous episode. Your subconscious is going to keep scanning for evidence that backs up the belief that you think you're a victim. So if you believe you're a victim, your subconscious is on the lookout. Oh, look how you were a victim over there. Oh, look how she took advantage of you. Oh, look how he did that when your back was turned. Oh, look at how those girls talked about you. And oh, look at it's going to pull out every single instance that it can possibly find to back up the belief that you already hold. And you're just going to keep recreating it. That life is just going to keep recycling over and over and over. And, addiction, just kind of circling back to the addiction thing, addiction especially reinforces that identity constantly because that life is chaos. That life is trauma, loss, danger, fear, all those things. That is the addiction life, right? If you're in it deep enough, that's what it becomes. It's just that. I mean, now, yeah, of course, there's moments of levity, there's moments of laughter, there's moments of fun, but it's a continuous cycle of more pain, more danger, more chaos, more trauma. Then you use more. And so you add more. You're in more situations that are going to create those exact things. And then you just add more onto the pile. So it's just this catch-22 that just kind of takes you down. And for me, every awful thing that happened during that time, it just became more proof that I was broken. Just more proof that I was a victim, a little victim, more proof that life was happening to me. And I had no control over any of it. When I finally got clean, I experienced something that honestly, like, still feels pretty impossible for me to explain. I don't know that I'm really not even going to try because there's just some things that you go through that you can't put words to. And if you try it, almost in a weird way, kind of cheapens them. So I'm not going to get into the details, but I'll just tell you this. I had a very deeply, deeply spiritual experience. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about a spiritual, on a soul level experience. And it changed who I am, who I was at the time, on the level of soul, on the level of identity, not behavior, identity. And there's a big difference there, right? And like I said, I'm not going to try to explain it. And honestly, I don't think language is big enough for what happened to me or what happens to a lot of people. I don't think language can really truly touch it. But for the first time in my life, I experienced something so otherworldly, so so loving, so expansive that I shifted the very fabric of who I believed myself to be. And here's the important part. I was not healed from addiction that day. It wasn't. I became someone who was never addicted in the first place, spiritually, energetically, identity wise. I became a new person. I wasn't broken and then healed. In that moment, what led up to that experience was that I had finally come to the end of myself. I had really come to this place of total and complete surrender because the only two options left for me in that moment, that day, in that exact moment were death or complete and total evolution. I was literally the proverbial caterpillar reduced to just goo inside the cocoon, just wiggling around in the cocoon. And my choices were die or evolve. That's it. That's it. That's all there was for me in that moment. So I evolved. I chose to surrender to this wild, crazy, indescribable process and let myself be changed. I wasn't healed. I was recreated. And I think people misunderstand transformation. They think that transformation means fixing the broken parts of you, putting the pieces back together, right? But I think real transformation happens when you become someone new, when you finally stop allowing that version of you to run the show, when you stop identifying with who you were. That's huge, you guys. When you stop identifying with the person that you used to be, when you finally open your hands and you let go of this identity you've been clinging so hard to. And here's where I think a lot of people get it wrong when they're trying to change their lives. They look back at the version of them that they used to be with shame. And I told you earlier, I'm not ashamed of who I was. And there's a big reason that I've worked so hard to get to the place where I'm not. Because when people look back at that old version of themselves, they feel shame, they feel disgust, hatred, judgment. Check on all the above for me back when I first started to change, when I first came out of that and I had become someone new. I was no longer the addict. I would look back at the addict and be like, ew, ugh, gross, ew. How could I have ever become her? Ugh. And it would like physically just like I would have a visceral reaction to it. Every time I thought about it, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to think about it because I would just like, ugh, ew. How could I have ever become that person? That's how a lot of us look back at that version of us that we used to be. And trust me, I get it. I do. I understand that feeling on a level that is so deep. For years after I got clean, I couldn't even talk about a lot of what happened because I was just so disgusted. But you can't heal what you're hiding. And eventually, I figured out that you cannot hate yourself into the version of you that you want to be. It just doesn't work like that. And all that shame that you feel, it just gets shoved deeper and deeper inside of you because what you resist persists, right? We know that, right? The harder that you push that version of you away, the more she's going to try to cling to you, cling to your back. The more she'll take up space in your mind, the more she'll haunt you, the more that you won't be able to stop thinking about her because you're trying so hard to stop thinking about her. Don't think about a pink elephant. What are you thinking about? A pink elephant. Immediately and instantly, you're thinking about a pink elephant, right? Because what you try to resist, it's just going to persist. This is the truth that may be a little bit hard to hear, especially in the beginning when you're in that newness of the change, when you embrace the new identity and you're still feeling some kind of way about the old one. That version of you, she existed for a reason. She became what she was to help you survive. The addict version of me, she was built to survive pain that previous versions of me could not handle, whether I liked it or not. I am literally alive because of her ruthlessness, her violence, her ability to keep going through all of it. That version of me I am literally sitting here talking about this with you right now because of her. How could I hate her? She helped me get here. I love her. I'm grateful in a way that I can really barely explain. Because that bitch, she got me through some shit. Listen, y'all, like, the details don't matter, but it was wild. It was just the wild, wild west out there for a long time, living as that woman, living on the street, selling drugs, doing drugs, being crazy, in and out of jail. That woman was wild as fuck. And she had to be. She had to be. That bitch got me through so much. She survived things that should have killed her. Honestly, things that did kill her a few times. I mean, for a few minutes, right? Those ODs were real. She adapted. She protected me in the only way that she knew how. And now I can look back at her and I can honor her. I can look back and love her and be grateful for everything she did for me. And I can simultaneously recognize that she was never meant to lead me into my future. So I can look back at her and I can love her and I can feel this immense gratitude for her, this pride in what she survived and what she handled and she kept going forward. I can feel all that and still acknowledge that she can't go where I'm going. That's the medicine. That's how healing actually happens. It's not by trying to bury those parts of you in shame. It's by finally loving them enough to put them to rest. So there's this weird stretch of road in the Midwest, where you leave one state, but you haven't like actually gotten to the next one yet. It's just like this weird stretch where one sign says leaving Missouri. And then the other sign that says entering Arkansas is like down the road. So you can see it down the road. You can totally like with your eyeballs, but there's this like weird little stretch in between. And so for a few seconds, it's like, where the fuck even are you? And I remember when I was a kid, because I was born in my early years, raised in Missouri. And so I remember me and my siblings and my mom, we'd have to go through this like fairly often, right? We have to go through this little area. And we would always sing the Twilight song while we were going through that stretch. Like, it's the Twilight Zone. Like, did we all die? I don't know. Are we in the void? What's happening? What is this? And honestly, that is kind of identity transformation. That's it. It's that weird fucking void. You are no longer who you were, but you haven't fully stabilized into who you're becoming yet. And people kind of tend to panic in this space because humans hate uncertainty. I'm kind of one of them. I'm not saying this at you, it's at us. We hate uncertainty. We do. It's just terrible. We want to know. We want to know the new identity is working before we fully release the old one. We want to have surety. We want to know for certain that this identity is all it's cracked up to be, that it's going to work, that it's settled in, that it's happening before we want to let go of the old one. That's not how the shift happens. That's not how transformation works. You cannot hold the next version of you if your hands are still clinging to the last one. Okay, so here's a good example. Let's say that you're getting ready to go to the grocery store, right? And you remember that you have all these pretty new bags you just bought, all these beautiful, reusable, has fun pictures on them bags, right? And the bags in the car that you have are actually kind of ratty and like the straps are breaking. And that's why you bought a bunch of new ones. And so you need to go swap them out, right? So you go to the car with your arm full of like, new bags, right? You got this like you're carrying this whole big load of brand new bags and you set them carefully on the sidewalk. And then you open up the back hatch and you gather up all the old bags. Okay. Now you turn around, you set them down, probably on the sidewalk, right by the new bags, and you go to reach for the new bags. And now for just one really brief moment, your hands are empty. You're not holding the old bags anymore, but you haven't grabbed the new ones yet. It's just a very brief space of time. Imagine that you like panic during that moment, that you set the old bags down. And when you go to reach for the new ones, you go, oh my God, oh my God. And you start thinking, oh, my hands are empty. This is wrong. And so immediately you grab the old bags again. You'd never get anywhere. You'd literally never get anywhere. But that's exactly what's happening during identity transformation. It feels like a lot longer than that brief moment, but that's exactly what people do during identity transformation. They let go of the old version of themselves. They release that old version and they feel uncertain for 5 fucking seconds. And then they run back to the familiar identity, back to the old boyfriend, back to the old job, right? Back to the old town that they lived in as a teenager or whatever, because that's what they know. And uncertainty feels unsafe. We've talked about this a lot. The brain doesn't like uncertainty. It interprets it as failure. So even if that old identity was making them miserable, people have a tendency to run right back to it. That empty-handed space, though, that moment where you've put down one thing and you've started to reach for the other, but you haven't quite got it yet, that's not failure. It's not cause for freak out. It's transition. It's just the space between identities. And yes, it feels uncomfortable. I'm not here to tell you it's totally fine. It doesn't feel weird at all. It does. It feels very weird. It feels foreign and disorienting, and it hurts, guys. Like, that's the thing. It hurts. Like, let's acknowledge that for a second. It's grief because you are mourning someone. You're mourning something. You're mourning the version of you that got you this far. The death of her. You're mourning this life, this entire life that you've known up to this point. You're mourning all the things and probably people and relationships that you have to leave behind. Of course it hurts. That's a part of it. Nobody ever promised it would be painless. If they did, they're a liar. But if you let that grief take over, if you panic during the empty-handed part, you'll pick that old identity right back up before your new life has a chance to really get going. And this is where the embodiment comes in. And let me be very clear. I am absolutely not talking about fake it till you make it. I've mentioned that before and I will mention it again. That is not my favorite. I don't love that concept. And at this point, I'm pretty sure you've heard me say, fuck that shit. I'm not talking about pretending. I'm talking about real embodiment. In another episode, we talked about how language creates distance from the things we want if we're not careful. So when you constantly say, I'm becoming, or, I'm becoming wealthy, or one day I'll blah, 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 or I'm going to be successful, right? All these things that we try to say to encourage ourselves, to pump ourselves up, your subconscious is actually hearing, oh, cool. So we're not that yet. Got it. Check. And it keeps pushing that thing farther away because we're not that thing yet. We're not that thing yet. You can't be here. We can't be that thing. We're not it yet. We just said that. But something really interesting starts happening when you shift into a memory instead of longing, even if it hasn't happened yet. So instead of saying, I'm becoming confident, you start saying, hey, I remember when I became confident. And then your brain is going to respond differently because memory feels real to the subconscious. So if you are thinking, I remember when I became confident, and you embody that feeling of confidence as you do it, that memory is going to feel very real to the subconscious. Past tense feels certain. So what do we just do? We took away the uncertainty. We demolished the distance. We eradicated the distance between me and that thing, and we took away the uncertainty of it. Boom. So instead of chasing an identity, you start remembering one. And yes, I know that sounds a little bit conceptual, woo-woo out there, weird at first, but stay with me here because this is really powerful. If you literally begin picturing yourself as that future version of you, you start picturing, I'm sitting here now as that version of me. And now in your mind, I'm role playing, right? I am that version of me right now. And I'm looking back on the moment that everything started changing. I look back on the moment where I realized I had become this version of me, this role playing future version of me that I'm embodying right now. I'm looking back, remembering the moment that I became her. Like, I remember when I finally stopped panicking every time life felt uncertain. I'm sitting here as that future version of me, and I'm going, I remember when I stopped identifying as the struggling woman. Whoa. I remember when I finally trusted myself. I remember when I became someone who always figures it out. I always figure shit out no matter what. I remember when I became her. When I embraced her, I remember that day. And your brain starts going, wait, what did I miss? We did? Oh shit. Okay. Let me catch up. And then because your subconscious is constantly scanning for evidence, like we talked about, constantly searching for evidence of who you believe you are, it's going to start looking for proof that you're already the version of you're pretending to be. That's how identity works. Your brain is basically like a giant evidence collecting machine. So if you believe I'm doomed, I'm just fucked no matter what, the world is out to get me, then your subconscious is going to constantly gather evidence that supports doom, victimhood, the world's out to get me. If you believe I always get abandoned, everybody leaves, then your brain is going to obsessively and continuously scan for rejection and abandonment and for people leaving. If you believe nothing ever works out for you, then your nervous system is going to literally filter everything that you see, hear, do, and experience through that lens. But the reverse is also true. The opposite is also true. You start saying, I remember when I became the woman who sees opportunity everywhere. And suddenly your brain starts noticing opportunities that you would have missed before. You start saying, I became a woman who always figures it out. Oh my God, I became her. And suddenly you start collecting evidence of resilience, of being the woman that always figures it out. You start remembering moments where you did figure things out and that your brain just bypassed because it wasn't important. It deemed it not important until now. You start coming up with creative ideas. You start having conversations that inspire you to do this, that, and the other, to try this thing. Unexpected opportunities start to pop up. And this is important. I'm not saying you are like magically hallucinating a perfect life overnight. It doesn't happen like that. I'm saying your identity, who you believe you are, determines what your nervous system allows you to see. So, for instance, okay, it's called the reticular activating system, okay? RAS, RAS. And it is literally running the show for you and for me, and for everybody else. So what that means is if you open up a newspaper, no, that's old school. Let's try something else. If you open up a magazine, do they still have magazines? I don't know. Let's try something else. You open up a web page. I'll get there. You open up a web page and there's just an article, right? So lots of words, maybe a couple of pictures, just full page, right? It's on your laptop. So you get the whole thing. And your brain, your subconscious mind immediately takes all that information in, just like that. Your subconscious mind saw everything on the page immediately, almost instantaneously. That's how fast the brain processes information. So immediately you've taken all this in by your subconscious brain. But your RAS, your RAS, it's going to selectively, it's going to hand pick the parts that it determines are important, which is why you will open up a page and all of a sudden you notice that it was written on your birthday. Or you just see a ton of words in this article, but you all of a sudden you see the word Corolla because you just so happen to drive a Corolla, or maybe you're in the market for a Corolla right now. It's why when you get pregnant or you're trying to get pregnant, all of a sudden you can't stop seeing pregnant bitches everywhere. It's not because all of a sudden everybody just got pregnant around you. It doesn't work like that. It's because all of a sudden your Raz decided, oh, this is important. Noted. That's how it works. And this works on all levels. So your identity, who you believe you are, that's your Raz. That determines what your nervous system is going to allow you to see. That determines what the Raz is going to pick out as important and lodge in your conscious mind. Because your external reality is it's just echoing the identity that you're operating inside of. External reality is the echo. Identity changes first. And honestly, that's why so many people stay stuck, because they're waiting for the environment to change before they allow themselves to become someone new. They're waiting for proof before embodiment. They're waiting for the money before they feel abundant. They're waiting for the relationship before they feel worthy. They're waiting for confidence before they take action. They're waiting for certainty before they make a move. But transformation doesn't happen that way. You have to release the old identity first, now, even when you don't have all that shit in front of you. No proof, no certainty, nothing but fear and a dream, baby. That's when you release the old identity, and then you begin embodying the new identity internally in here. And then eventually the echo happens. Eventually reality, what you see around you, catches up. There's a lag time. There's a loading time. And during that time, that's when you're doing the identity work. You're shifting here. And then the lag eventually stops and your reality will catch up. So after all this whole John Wick situation that led me down this path of revelation, after all this, after realizing that I had so deeply come to identify with struggle, after realizing how long I had been loyal to the identities that I had built in survival, I started doing something different. I stopped trying to become someone new. I stopped telling myself that I was becoming this other version of me. And I started remembering her. I started writing from the perspective of the woman that I'm becoming, as if I'd already become her. Not fantasy, not delusion, identity rehearsal. That's embodiment. And honestly, some of the things that came through felt a lot less like affirmations, which we've talked about, I'm not a super big fan of, and more like memories of the future. I know that sounds wild, but I'm serious. It's like I was hearing echoes from a version of me that already exists. And guess what? Spoiler alert, she does. She does already exist. That version of you that you want to become, that you can see in your mind, that you dream about, she already exists. She's already real out there. Okay? And when you start doing this, you're going to start feeling like her. That's what happened to me. I literally started feeling like, oh my God, I'm actually remembering becoming her. I'm looking back on the moment when everything changed. And this is what she said. I became the woman who stopped apologizing for taking up space. I became the woman who stopped making herself small so that other people could feel comfortable. And as you're listening to this, I want you to put your hand on your heart physically, not through your shirt. I want you to put 2 fingers, your whole hand, whatever it is, put it on your chest and just feel your heart. And I want you to listen to this right now. I became the woman who stopped confusing chaos with passion. I became the woman who realized peace was not punishment. I became the woman who stopped waiting for catastrophe, stopped waiting for things to fall apart every time life got good. I became the woman who trusted herself with happiness, who stopped using struggle as proof of value, who allowed joy to be enough. I became the woman who understood that softness was not weakness, who knew she didn't need to suffer in order to be strong. I became the woman who stopped earning love through agony and pain. I became the woman who let life support her. And maybe this is the moment. Not where your whole life changes overnight. I'm never going to be that bitch. I'm never going to be that woman. How to change your life in 3 easy steps. That's so gross and it's not real. I'm not talking about this as the moment where your life changed and you woke up and everything was different. This is not where your whole life changes overnight, but maybe this is the moment where you finally stop introducing yourself as the person that survival forced you to become. Maybe this is the moment where you stop identifying as the version of you that your pain created out of necessity. Maybe this is the moment that you release the identity you've been clinging to for years. Not because she was bad, not because she even failed you, but because she was never meant to carry you into your future. She was never meant to. Maybe this is the moment where you stop worshiping your suffering like I was doing. The moment where you stop waiting to be rescued. Maybe this right now, while you're watching this, maybe one day you'll look back and this was the moment where you, before the money arrives, before the opportunities come, before the evidence exists, this moment, you become her first. This is the moment where you stop looking behind you. And maybe for the first time in your life, you finally start walking forward. Welcome to the detour.